All right, so this was by far my favorite fight of the night. Joanna looked absolutely incredible. Rose looked absolutely incredible, and it's very clear to me. And I've been waiting for a while for women's MMA to kind of catch up to where men's MMA is, and I think it's there. It's definitely there because those two looked far more qualified, far more impressive than a majority, I'd say, of the male fighters in the UFC. So I'm glad it's gotten to that point. That being said, there's not a huge talent pool at this point, but just the fact that there are people like these two who are so talented, and of course, like people in the higher weight classes too, of course, is gonna drive a lot more competitors from boxing and kickboxing and wrestling and or judo or any of these combat sports. So that's great. Now, about what I liked about this fight was just how insanely technical yet how insanely brutal it was at the exact same time, which is really the best fight because I have those two parts of me like we all do as fight fans. Hopefully we do. Hopefully we're not just the just bleed guys. One part is going, "Wow, look at that, stand switch, angle change, getting offline, connecting with that overhand right, chopping cross and then coming in with the hook, just absolutely beautiful. Look at how she's going in with that jab, the in out footwork." And then the other part is going, "Whoa, did you see that exchange? That was so freaking good." And we just got everything in this fight. We even got kind of a reversal of fortunes, and then one would step it up, the other would step it up. So I'm gonna go into just kind of what I saw with stylistic differences, what was working, what was not working, and yeah. So here we go. So with Rose, I really loved her footwork. She's got that in out footwork that I've heard referred to as a pendulum step. I like to think of it as a half shuffle, because a pendulum step is kind of what I think of with that hip swing where you replace your front foot with your rear foot. So she was doing lots of those half shuffles with like foot fainting in, just kind of like half steps in, but not really, and then kind of bringing it out. I think I've described it well enough that you kind of understand the footwork I'm talking about. And this was working great for her because this footwork, the half shuffle works great to mix with L steps to change angles. You could, like I said, the foot fainting, it works really well with foot fainting. It works great with just kind of stepping out offline and then pivoting in to kind of get that superior angle from orthodox where your opponent's open, like they're standing more square to you, kind of squares them up and keeps you sideways. So it's just step pivot in. Classic Muhammad Ali technique. Of course, he was using way fancier footwork, and classic boxing technique that's been around forever, or any fight technique really. Um, and she even got fancy when she. It kills me when a fighter throws a linear kick and then puts it back down behind them because it's just impossible to chase. But the problem is when they, or even with a roundhouse kick, it doesn't need to be a linear kick, but especially linear kicks because it's so easy to turn it into a step, and she did. She threw a teep. I can't remember if it hit or not. And she found herself in southpaw. So what did she do? She connected with her new rear hand and then came in for a really nice lead hook, which with her basically stronger hand with her right hand. She's not a switch hitter really, so she didn't stay there. But the fact she could do it and that she didn't get awkward when throwing a kick, that annoys me. The 5-year-old kids taking karate classes know how to throw a kick and be comfortable with their other foot forward for a second and throw some attacks off that, even if it's not their primary stance. So that was good. As far as head movement, absolutely beautiful. And I'll start talking a little bit about Joanna here too. Um, so Joanna has a very good high guard and kind of a Muay Thai based defense, and she does slip it and duck her head a little bit. But and I understand that they're very concerned about knees, and I understand in Muay Thai you have to worry about someone who could literally knee over your shoulder. So I get that, but her head movement is a little bit too subtle. I think it's a little bit too offline. In compares or it was in comparison to Rose, because when they had these exchanges, especially during the end of the fight, and I'll get to kind of the story in the fight in a minute here. When they had these exchanges, Rose put her head offline far more. She didn't eat any knees that I remember, or even uppercuts. She probably ate a few. I'm not remembering, somewhere. But she got her head offline enough to where she could stay safe and also kind of change angles and get off the center line and set up her shots more. Whereas Joanna just didn't see that happening very much. Now, let's talk about what Joanna did really well and what kind of started turning the fight for her, which should be obvious because the commentators were pointing it out as well, which is that she started just chopping down Rose's leg really bad, and Rose was getting hit with this just all the time, and not she made an adjustment towards the end, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But the same footwork that I just complimented was kind of the cause for this. Her constant like in out footwork, just kind of every time she came in, even if she wasn't going to come in close enough to land a punch, she was close enough to land a kick. And someone has already figured out kind of the solution to this, to be able to use that half shuffle step where you kind of touch your lead foot to your rear foot before coming back in and mixing it with foot feints. Someone's figured that out, how to kind of avoid a lot of takedowns and a lot of leg kicks from that. And that's Max Holloway. Because what he does is when he comes in with that lead leg, he's lifting his knee up and almost already checking. It's like, it could either be a check, which it often turns into because he's anticipating the leg kick, or it's a feint. So not only are you using that great in-out foot movement to set up angles and be there, be not there, get the opponent to overreach and then come back in suddenly again, but also you're being it's a defensively responsible version of doing that for your leg. You're feinting at the same time, so it adds another level to your feint beyond the foot feint. Not only are they worried about you stepping in with a jab, they're worried about you coming in with a push kick or a teep or an oblique kick to the leg, or as Max Holloway does, is kind of a, I don't want to call it an oblique kick because that's kind of become synonymous with sideways. It's more like a low teep, I guess you could call it, or a front kick or a stomp kick, but it's a linear kick to the leg as he steps in, and he'll often punch off of that. And I think if Rose started doing that, it'd work really well, but she did not do that fight. And as such, Joanna really took it to her, and I think it started changing in the third. It was either the third or fourth. Pretty sure it was the third. That she started, those leg kicks really started slowing Rose down a whole lot. And so the pace, up until that point, Rose was in control of the pace pretty much. She was in control of the rhythm and the cadence and all that. Once her leg got kind of shot to hell, then man, Joanna just started controlling the timing, and she just took it to her. Like, it got intense. And then what was really awesome moment was Rose kind of just threw some really hard bombs on her, and then Joanna blocked it on her guard, and then just laughed at her. Just laughed at her like, come on, bring it. And then Rose freaking did. She came in, and what she started doing is she kind of planted her lead leg there, but she got in close enough to start just kind of swarming her with punches. And that was, I'd have to watch the fight again, but in my head, this is all happening during the fourth and the fifth rounds, is that they're starting to just fight closer and closer to each other, and it's starting to be just like this epic kind of brawl, but a technical one. And as the aggression between the two, kind of ramped up, they're both taking shots, they're both giving shots. I don't think Rose trusted the judges to bring it to a decision, or she maybe thought that she was not winning the fight, because in the last round, which I doubt the last one, but you don't know. In the last round, she really went in there and just, god damn, I've not seen someone that technically aggressive in a long, long time. Absolutely incredible. Definitely a fan of both of these guys. They fought to the end. Oh, and Rose even got a takedown at the end after the whole thing was pretty much standing up. She started utilizing a high guard, so she used more like a boxer kind of head movement throughout the entire time. I mentioned before that Joanna was more just like high guard and then just tight, jerky kind of Muay Thai kind of thing. And then, but Rose really just kind of moved her guard, moved her hands with her shoulders and her head in much more of a boxing kind of flow, which allowed her to slip better. But during the last round, when she was getting worn out and her leg was probably near dead, she was probably close to collapsing. She just started going from high guard to not haymakers, but really hard freaking punches. So she just kind of planted there, high guard and punches, and then ended it with the takedown. So I have to say, this was an incredibly epic fight. I do think Rose deserved the win, but just barely, and only because she adjusted and changed her tactics and ended really strong and ramped up her aggression. And of course, I'd love to see a rematch. This fight was absolutely incredible. I'm probably gonna rewatch it again. It's exactly what I love, which is it has a story and it has that technical brutality, man. The technical brutality. So fucking epic, fucking epic. I could not be happier with this fight. Like I said, favorite fight of the night by far. So I'm going to go ahead and record podcast for probably just Khabib versus Al, and then yeah, we'll go from there. I don't think any other fights, but we'll see, and we'll see if there's a breakdown on this fight coming up soon. There very well may be. So that's it for now. Hope you guys enjoyed the fight like I did, and happy training.